What up, people? Welcome back. Welcome to the season 3 season premiere of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast, featuring the one and only Mike Steph, best in the world at what he does. Yes. I'm back after a 5-week hiatus, after a 5-week sabbatical, and it's crazy because the person that I'm going to share the screen with for not one but 2 episodes um, has actually spent time with me for the last 4 out of the 5 weeks of my sabbatical. So y'all probably seen me on various other places. Hopefully y'all do, because hopefully my audience travels. Because if not, then my self-proclaimed moniker of the needle mover will be Fugazi. The self-proclaimed moniker of um, that dude that's always everywhere, which makes no sense whatsoever, would be Fugazi. So yeah. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. I'm going to keep the intro nice and short for this episode because we have a lot to get in and we don't have limited time, but at the same time I want to get right to the important matters at hand. I missed y'all. Hopefully y'all did or were aware of my audio only episode from last week, in which I was talking about Draymond Green and my beloved New York Knickerbockers and his idiotic, inane comments on Karl Anthony Towns' absence when they matched up in the Garden. And unfortunately, I'm speaking to you less than 24 hours after the rematch in the Bay, in which the Warriors stuck it to us again. And unfortunately, Draymond Green had the last laugh. But that's for a episode in the future, pretty much the next episode after this. This week, I host and bring on my platform, the one, the only, my bro from the desert in Arizona, Tyler McDowell-Blanken. Yes, it's been a long time coming, a long time since he's been on the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. Actually, probably going about 18 months now, which is way too long for y'all. Like I said, I've been dealing with him for 4 weeks. And it's always been a pleasure. So it'd be great to have him on my platform. And we're going to talk about a myriad of topics. This particular episode, we're going to talk about something an endeavor that he has encroached on since the last time he graced us with his presence, and that is his movement. Yeah, I said movement. Yeah, I always big it up at the end. For AZ. Please, 4azteach.org is the website. 4AZ is the YouTube channel. 4AZ is the podcast. And I will leave everything else for Tyler to give his expert definition of what exactly 4AZ is to him and 4AZ is to y'all. And like I said, one of these days, we might have a 4BK, a 4NY, a 4NJ, a 4VA, a 4NC. Matter of fact, a 4 element OP. We're gonna have all that. So, he's gonna be my guest this week. He's gonna be my guest on the next 2 episodes, and we got, like I said, we got a whole bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. But this one, we're going to concentrate on 4AZ, and I'm going to get his thoughts because he is hopefully I will not be speaking out of school, but he is a staunch Democrat. And we haven't been able to discuss this on air since the election in November. And I have a whole bunch of questions that I want to ask him, and he's been gracious enough to allow me to ask those questions on air. And that's the one good thing about the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. Guess what? I have no political connects. I can listen to fuck. So, and he's actually agreed to come over here and hopefully give less than the fuck than I do. So, yeah, that's what's on tap this week. Without further ado, I'm going to get this show on the road because I've already been rambling for 5 minutes. And, we got a show to do. So, good night and goodbye. Ooh. Bang!
thoughts of Mike Steph, this marks a new beginning. Thanks for supporting a total reinvention. The soul is still here, but the vibe's a little different. Unpredictable, hide the kids and the women. Sports of all sorts, music mixed for living. Rep New York City, but hate the politicians. Always bring the heat, Steph bacon in the kitchen. Big shout to y'all, I appreciate the listen. Donnie put the rest, but I'm still in the best in the world of what I do. All y'all know the rest. I live it, I breathe it, I'm the whole definition. The pinnacle, the ultimate, I'm on a new mission. The salty thoughts of Mike Steph, featuring the one and only Mike Steph, the best in the world of what he does. Tap in.
You see who just reappeared or just appeared on my screen. To the, I guess, the left of me, to the right of y'all. I don't know. This, like I said, I'm rusty, so please forgive me. But my bro, Tyler McDowell-Blanken, how are you doing? How are you doing, brother? It's been a long time for them, not a long time for me, but I'll play along. It's been a long time since you graced your presence on the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. What's good?
I'm back. I'm back on the big time. I made it. Thank you for the invite, Mike. Thank you so much for the gracious introduction. I am great and grateful today, bro. I'm blessed. I'm happy to see you. And I'm excited to get into all those topics that I'm sure some ones that will just kind of, unforeseen ones that we'll touch on. But excited to be here. Congratulations on season 3. I can't wait to support and see all the magic that you create over the next several weeks. So thank you again for the invite and very happy to be here. All is well.
No, thank you. It was only right that, I mean, I've talked about this before and I'm going to talk about it again. My initial foray into the YouTube movement, the YouTube situation, the YouTube podcasting, you were an integral part in allowing me to become comfortable in said form. So you was on the very first episode of this iteration of my podcast, The Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. You was also returned again within the first 6 months of the podcast. And then we had this long break. So I figured after a while, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to start splitting this up into seasons, because, I mean, I figured, why not? If I'm going to have a season premiere, and this is my 3rd season, then why would I not actually bring everything 360 degrees in rotation and bring back the gentleman, my brother, who launched this with me? So yeah, it was only fitting that you would be here, and this also makes you a three-time guest.
Listen, this is a big deal. I legit am honored. You know how much I love you and I love your content and appreciate you for various reasons. So I'm honored to be here. And like you said, it is given 360 for sure. I can't believe we're already on season 3. This is very exciting.
Yeah. So you've been a very, very busy guy over the last 18 months since you last appeared. And that brings us to our first, because yeah, I know what's on the moniker. I know what y'all are waiting for. Y'all waiting for, yeah, let's talk about these politics. Hey, hold your horses. Hold your horses. There's plenty enough time for that. Look, turn on CNN, turn on MSNBC, turn on whatever, and you're gonna be inundated with all this BS. Unfortunately, it's more true than false. A lot of things are going on. But listen, we can kind of, get back in our good graces of, yeah, let's just fill each other out. Well, not fill each other out, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about your movement. And then we could talk about the movements that's going on in society at large. Trust me, they ain't stopping no time soon. So we could get to that. But the genesis of your movement for AZ, before I ask you, of course, the question of what exactly 4AZ is, How did the seed become a plant, become a flower, become a garden? I am going to play a clip of our latest episode. And yeah, this is kind of cheesy because it also was a promotional clip. But listen, sue me.
She's just Janine Teagues. Come on now. She's my MVP.
That's personal bias.
That's personal bias.
Yes. You
for Quinta Brunson or for
you was mesmerized by the curls in the hair. Yeah.
I thought
I was having the same thought, Mike.
Yeah, and you see.
Wow.
See?
Okay. Okay. Clearly,
I wasn't gonna say it.
It's gonna backfire on you. I'm telling you right now.
Okay. Clearly,
me and Sarah all the way.
We've been recording.
Tyler's never letting both of us on again. At the same time.
No.
He's already talking about. We've been recording.
We've been recording too long. Clearly.
Yeah. This is the second week in a row I got this from him. Yeah, I think we should wrap the episode right now.
Production team,
you think
please.
Because 4AZ was gonna be different?
Production team.
You want me? You know who I am. You know what you get.
I do.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't care if Revolution is on or not.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This is a great cliffhanger, actually. What could happen on the next 4AZ? Who knows?
Okay. Before I give you a chance to talk, I really need to play a clip that's more representative. Because if I tell it, and all of a sudden that was toward the end of our latest episode. But here's a clip.
I'm your host, Tyler McDowell-Blanken. There's a ton going on right now on and off screen. The semester is intensifying, holidays are approaching, and we have so much Abbott Elementary to discuss. I welcome 19 Media's Mike Steph to recap episodes 5 and 6 of season 4. These are two of my favorite episodes of the season. Episode 5, Dad Fight, was hilarious, and episode 6, The Deli, featured some character development, some Philly, and even the return of a cast member. Mike and I discuss all of that and more on this edition. Follow us at 4AZTeach or check out 4azteach.org for show updates and episode announcements. Please be sure to like this video, leave us a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or even share it with a friend. It all goes a long way. Thank you, and enjoy.
Okay. There are two. Okay, you have season 1 of 4AZ, and the clips that I showed actually refer to a special sister content of the premise of 4AZ, in which you're going through the recapping of season 4 of Abbott Elementary. And every 2 weeks, we recap. Well, nowadays, we recap 2 episodes, me, you, and the lovely Sarah Beth. And matter of fact, I'm talking way too much. Let the people know what 4AZ is about.
That's a great opening. I didn't expect the clips, Mike. Thank you for sharing those, brother. I appreciate you. Yeah, so 4AZ, like you said, very much is a case of seeds being planted. I like to start by sharing that Black educators are 4% of Arizona's teacher workforce. I discovered this during my graduate study. So fortunately, I taught for 6 years. I taught high school English here in Arizona, and then was fortunate enough to transition to a position at Arizona State University in our education college. And that offered me the opportunity to go back to school, which was not on my horizon, was not something I forecasted, but it was an opportunity presented my way. And during my research studies, I discovered that statistic, which inherently, if you've grown up in Arizona or spent any time here, especially being familiar with the education system, it's not shocking. It mirrors the population demographics of the state as a whole. The Black population of Arizona is about 4%. So, Black educators, 4% of the Arizona teacher workforce, not shocking, but I really reflected on my own experience, kindergarten through 12th grade, being a public school kid, and recognizing that I didn't have a Black teacher until, we're specifically looking at K through 12, until I got to college. And that, to me, there's work to be done there. I think a big reason why I never considered a career in education, I went to school for journalism originally. That's what my degree is in. I think a reason now, reflecting on why it took me so long to pursue a career in this field is because it just seems so far out of my depth. You could have told me back in high school that, me becoming a teacher, that would have been akin to, I often say, you telling me I was going to be an astronaut or I was going to play point guard for the Phoenix Suns. It just seems so out of my depth and so unrealistic. And again, part of that goes back to the representation piece. I had many amazing teachers. Don't get it twisted. Some phenomenal teachers throughout my adolescence. Again, had I had someone in the front of the room who looked like me and really just maybe tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, I think you should consider this profession one day, or maybe study this in college, I could have got started on this endeavor long, long ago. So 4AZ was founded officially. It was launched, if you will, on Juneteenth, 2024. So we're coming up on a year sooner rather than later. The organization, it's a podcast really currently, but overall the goal is to grow it into an organization to spotlight the stories of Black educators in the state that raised me, along with discussing the profession, hot topics, how to find community. Education means everything to me. And so being able to have a platform where I can showcase some incredible people I know while also creating a space for us to talk about the joys and the realities of teaching in Arizona, it means everything to me. And the fact that people have gravitated toward it, have given me their time to talk about their story or to talk about Abbott Elementary. Like you said, Mike, we have kind of our side project, which is 4AZ Abbott, in which, as you laid out, we recap one of my favorite shows on television. The fact that people are willing to contribute, to listen, to watch, to invest in me and invest in us, it's hard to put into words how appreciative I am. And I believe the best is yet to come for 4AZ.
Would you categorize everything that you said as your mission statement, so to speak, for 4AZ? If not, I know I kind of put you at a spot now. If that's not the case, what would you want your mission statement to be for 4AZ as a whole?
Sure. Well, it is all about spotlighting stories of incredible educators I know who also happen to be Black, and really creating a space for folks to share how they found their path, how they found their community, how they were able to build a career out of a profession that sometimes doesn't seem like it's long. It does seem like it's has a lot of longevity. Like, oh, okay, it's something I maybe did in my 20s, back when I had energy and a lot of ambition. But now that I'm in my 30s, I need to get this bread, or I need to go sell homes, or I need to transition to something other than the four walls of the classroom. So, that's in the bio that you'll see on Instagram and Facebook and on the website. But really, my personal mission statement is I want to be the person, I aspire to be the person I needed when I was younger. And to me, that is central to 4AZ's mission, is to be able to build that community and for folks to see themselves and see a pathway toward education, dare I say, toward teaching, being a career for them. So it's really about being the person I needed, hopefully being the person I needed when I was younger, but more importantly, sharing the stories and spotlighting the stories of Arizona's amazing educators. And in the process, creating new educators and helping bring in, if you will, on board, if you will, a new generation of educators who can pick up that baton once us old heads are getting ready to hang up the jerseys.
No, I really, like I said, I really respect and admire you for even having that as a thought and making it come into fruition. Just watching, especially watching the first season. Matter of fact, before I even get into that, what's to come for the official season 2 of 4AZ? And then I can piggyback off that for what I was about to say.
So much. I appreciate you asking, Mike. So like you said, season 1, we showcase the stories of 8 amazing educators in Arizona and beyond, as a matter of fact, one of which related to, actually, shout out to Dr. Erica McDowell out on the East Coast. Season 2, wow. Okay, without giving away too much, we will be back this summer, and the focus of the season will be newsmakers and hot topics. So I'm bringing on folks who are in the news here in Arizona and beyond in the education space, and also carving out time to discuss hot topics in education, whether that be cell phones, classroom management. As a teacher, how do you build the life for yourself outside of the four walls of your classroom? So we'll discuss wellness, we'll discuss dating and relationships. I think it's going to feel familiar to fans of season 1, but also give you a lot of new content and a lot of surprises along the way. So Newsmakers and Hot Topics, season 2, dropping summer 2K25. I can't wait, and I hope you, Mike, and I hope your audience will join me.
No, I love it. I told you that, especially when the season starts and you drop every Wednesday, that replaces AEW Dynamite for me. Like 8 o'clock comes at my shoot job where I'm supposed to be doing work, but of course I'm, trying to figure out what I can watch on my phone. 4AZ is really what's going on from 8 to 10. Depending on, it could be a half-hour episode. I'll watch it and then I'll probably, do something. I'll go back and I'll make my little comments and everything. So when you asked me the first time, because darn, come to think of it, I'm a three-time appearing, guest on 4AZ. But when you asked me the first time to come on, and I believe that was for the Abbott, the Abbott recaps, watching so in depth for season 1, I think I might have told you, but I don't know if I told you in this particular way, that I was totally intimidated by coming on that platform, because everybody that's been on the platform is, have a part in the education field. And I'm like, shoot, I don't ever really think I'm out of my depth when it comes to certain things. I'm that confident that I can figure out and make a way in it, or make it work for the situation that it needs to be. Yes. Well, I don't have it down there, but the original spousal chief is here. So, but I know how I can sometimes veer off topic, or maybe be more boisterous than the subject needs. So but I told myself, I'm like, oh my God, all right, I'm going to be very reserved. I'm going to give him what he needs. I'm going to give him what he wants.
Sure.
Like he knows me personally now. So It's not like my reserve part is not going to be a shock to him. It's like, okay, Mike is playing it, even kill. But like I said, being the fact that this is your personal endeavor, I did not want to be the black mark on your personal endeavor. Like, yeah, season 1 was great, but that Mike Steph guy,
who's that?
I don't know. Maybe you need to reconsider. Like, yeah, he might be good for you to have, go on his platform. He might even be good talking wrestling. But this particular platform, I think you should just leave him all the way on the East Coast.
Stop the madness. Never that. But you did it.
So,
you did express that to me. You were very transparent ahead of time.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but that I say that. Long story short, I say that as a form of respect for what you have, what you've created and what you're building. I'll even say, without getting too much into it, but I probably said, I've said this to them in various ways. When it comes to Hidden Gems football, I know, like I, as much as it might belie the public that feel like I cannot be contained in a box, or I don't know boundaries. Listen, I'm 48 years old. Don't let the public persona fool you. I'm very well versed in what's appropriate or what's not appropriate. My platform, listen, it's based on what I feel like doing. So there isn't any boundaries. But if I have a guest, of course, I'm going to respect their boundaries, because I don't want anything to reflect on them based on what I do. But if I'm sharing the screen with someone, I'm never going to make them regret actually even pressing that record button or regret spending time chopping up whatever topic we chop it up on. So, but yeah, I done lost my train of thought, which is crazy because I'm so rusty doing this on mine. Usually it's like, all right, this is the lineup, this is what we're gonna do, fine. But
it's like riding a
I say
bike. No,
all
you
that to say,
you mentioned that you were a 3-time guest, and I've been honored to have you every time, and the best is yet to come.
yeah, thank you. Like I say all that to say, that if I'm a part of a team, I'm a team player. That's the best way I could bottom line it. Is I'm a team player. So if I'm a part of a team, there's no I in team. There's I in Mike, but it's not. There's not an I in team.
I can confirm that there is an I in Mike, not in Tyler, but in Mike.
So yeah, but I have another question concerning 4AZ and actually the sister content. How did the Abbott Elementary recaps come to mind?
Wow. In many ways, a selfish endeavor. It's my favorite show on television. And I need to let everyone know that every 2 weeks during a new Abbott season, and the correlation or the parallels from a lot of our conversations on the seasons, in this case, season 1, a lot of that is seen on Abbott Elementary in terms of community, in terms of, students being brilliant and goofy and just very, the nuances of the profession. I think Abbott Elementary does a really strong job of showcasing the realities of what it's like to work at a school. And granted, I've worked at a high school, Abbott showcasing, younger kiddos, but from my lived experience, certainly from what I hear from people in my life who work with younger kiddos, the accuracy of Abbott Elementary is fantastic. Now, granted, it's Hollywood. There's some extra elements added to the show for audience purposes, but the fact that there is a show on a major national network, this being ABC, that is not only showcasing the profession and the joys and at times the perils of the work, but highlighting Black educators. In fact, the leads of the show is largely based around Quinta Brunson, who plays Janine Teagues, and Tyler James Williams, who plays Gregory Eddy. And the fact that they met each other out of school and are now coupled up, like that gives me hope. But it also is just amazing and incredibly powerful for me to see a show about education speaking positively and authentically about the work, while also centering it around Black educators, a Black woman, and now her boo, Gregory Eddy. To me, there's just, however I can spread the word about Abbott Elementary. I am not on ABC's payroll. I want to confirm that on the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph right here. I am not on the payroll, but whatever I can do to amplify the show, whatever I can do to bring people on who want to discuss Abbott Elementary, I just want people to check it out. And to me, there's a lot of correlation between the discussions we have on 4AZ with what we're watching every Wednesday on Abbott Elementary. So fortunately, I found 2 people who are dear to me who also watch Abbott faithfully, and thus the genesis, the birth of 4AZ Abbott started. But also shout out to all of my other incredible guests who have joined to discuss Abbott this season. It's just been, it's so cool, Mike, and I'm sure you can relate to this, to create a platform and then being able to bring on people you really admire. Some people you're meeting for the first time on air. Some people you've met. I've been able to have some of my best friends on the show. So to me, it was really, it was ingrained from a young age. I give my parents so much credit for this. It was ingrained from a young age that it's important for you to make it and work hard and achieve your goals. But then when you reach those goals, you have to bring other people up with you. And one of the goals for me with 4AZ is not for it to just be a passion project for myself, but to also, again, spotlight the stories and the incredible work of other people. And when in doubt, just bring on some amazing people who I love, and finding a way for them to get on the screen and to talk about the work they do, or to discuss Abbott fan theories and such. So there's a lot of correlation, and when in doubt, I just love to bring people who I care about on. I love to spend time with them, and if I can do it on a podcast, I'm definitely going to take that opportunity.
Now, you mentioned that no, you're not on the payroll of ABC. You're not on the payroll of Hulu. You're not receiving a check from the big mouse down in Orlando, Florida. Mickey Mouse. But this is where I veer off just a little bit before we get into the political atmosphere. Your other love is for The Bachelor, right? We've actually talked about The Bachelor last time we came, because we had the juxtaposition of The Bachelor versus the Big D / Temptation Island. It was a battle, and The Bachelor is still standing. The Big D is no more, and Temptation Island, I believe, is gonna rear its head somewhere on one of these apps pretty soon. I think it might be Netflix. But neither here nor there. But I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you again, because I forgot, because I got so many things that's in my mind. Just forgot. Why The Bachelor of all places? What's the fascination with The Bachelor? The most generic, sanitized,
Dang, Mike. Okay.
dating show on the air. Why The Bachelor?
I think what Mike meant to say is the longest running dating or episodic show on the air. So I'm gonna blame, or you can say give credit to my wonderful mother for this. Shout out to my mom. She introduced me to this franchise. And okay, you have to respect this, Mike. I am not a sort of multi-decade viewer of Batch. The reason I got into it initially was following the announcement of the franchise's first Black Bachelor. So once Matt James came into the picture, I should memorize this, but I want to say this was right around the pandemic, either right before or right after. Feel free, Mike, Steph, listeners, and Salty Thoughts audience, if I'm wrong, please feel free to check me on this. So it's been about a 5 or 6 year venture for me. And once Matt James was announced, I was hooked. I didn't exactly know what I was signing up for, admittedly, but my roots in reality TV go back years. I was that kid who was watching Flavor of Love with Flava Flav, Rock of Love with Bret Michaels, the classic A Shot with Tila Tequila. I think that was the name of it.
Oh, wow.
A Shot with Tila Tequila, MTV, VH1. Yeah, that was my jam. I was totally into it. I was probably watching it too young, but alas, that was middle school for me. And for whatever reason, I just watched every episode and I couldn't get enough of it. And there was I Love New York.
Yeah.
You remember the branch? It just keeps going, just like that.
Chance of Love.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So really, I tell you, I started once Matt James was announced. I was like, oh, Ma watches this, but I think I'm going to check it out too. My roots really go back to when I was 12 or 13 and I was surfing the channels and I found those VH1 and MTV shows with celebrities dating. So yeah, for whatever reason, it's come back full force. And you're right. I will be the first to admit I am super invested in Batch. And currently, as we record, this is the season with the second Black Bachelor, Grant Ellis. So whenever there's a Black lead, really whenever there's a lead of color, I'm fully invested. And I love talking about it. And, it's the good things about the episodes, the bad things about the franchise. As you pointed out, it's certainly not a perfect franchise by any means. That could be its own separate episode. But I really enjoy the content, and particularly when there's an interesting lead, or when there's a Matt James or a Grant Ellis. I'm all the way tuned in.
Have you noticed? I mean, because two of your loves, Bachelor and wrestling, and we'll talk about wrestling later on. But did you notice that during the pandemic, that a lot of entertainment entities leaned heavily on minorities, leaned heavily on Black and Latino personalities to get them through?
Definitely. It was in fashion at that time.
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody was
Which leads to
about the movement until
leads to
they
more
weren't.
of this. Leads to more of this.
Yeah, so
Leads to
yeah,
more
just
money. In case you're listening and didn't watch me, I was doing the
yeah,
Johnny Manziel, the money hand sign.
so no, it's ironic. It's just really ironic. But my next question, Bachelor-ish, was I found something out when I was watching the latest installment of Gimmick Infringement with a Rose for Tyler, in which I was talking about the situation with the Latter-day Saints.
With Latia, the front runner, who
Yeah.
maybe won't get picked because Grant's concerned about joining the LDS church. Yeah.
Yes, but see that's thing. I'm glad you just mentioned it. When did LDS become a thing? Because listen, because of our age gap, I remember the commercials for the Latter-day Saints. I'm like, darn, I actually have a friend. I don't know. Listen, I don't know how true this was. And tell you the truth, the time frame, he wouldn't be indicted for this anyway. But I have a friend of mine, well, an old friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him in years. And one of his hustles were to be he was out and about in the streets of Brooklyn, because at the time they had Latter-day Saints on the corner, spreading the word with the white shirt, the black tie, and everything. And according to him, he made about $10,000 slinging that China white while he was in the uniform of the Latter-day Saints. But once again, I heard Latter-day Saints. Y'all say LDS. Where did that come from? Is that a West Coast thing? Is that because of your proximity to Utah? It's like, they part of the LDS. Like, I've never heard of that referred to that.
Yeah. I would say so. And really, it is a Southwest thing. Obviously, Utah, being a very prominent community with lots of LDS folks. Arizona is right there, though, Mike. I can think of peers I went to school with, folks I met in college, colleagues I've worked with in Southern Arizona, now closer here in the Phoenix, Glendale, West Valley area. There is a prominent LDS community across the state. So I don't know that I really became aware of it until high school, but it's always existed. I was raised here, and there's always been strong LDS ties. There's lots of LDS churches. Hopefully I'm using, the correct verbiage here. Lots of LDS churches and lots of prominent folks in the community who are of that faith. So in terms of verbiage and kind of going with the acronym, yeah, I think it's been that way a long time, but I wasn't really aware of it until the mid to late, when was I in high school? A long time ago. I would say the early 2010s is when I became aware of it, that, Arizona, like even at the high schools I've worked at and the high school I attended, there are LDS classes offered in the morning, where there would be specific classrooms on a campus that LDS students at the school who are LDS, they have the church has a partnership with the schools to allow the facility to be used. So certain classroom spaces can be used to host class in the morning. And the way I'm delivering this, I want folks to know it's not nefarious. I think there's a contract, and I'm sure the church pretty handsomely pays to use that space. But yeah, it's really embedded in the community, and okay, this could be its own separate episode, but it's definitely a part of the community. And what I will say is, although I am not a member of the LDS church, I will say that I've met a lot of incredible folks. I'm thinking of peers, I'm thinking of students, families. I've met a lot of incredible folks who are of that faith, who have really big hearts and just care a ton.
Okay.
And granted, I think Grant is still going to pick Latia. I think his concerns are valid, but I still think Latia is the front runner.
I'm swear you're so lucky that I don't have on hand the clip, in which I made you blush, turn red, where I inferred that Grant might, he
That's
might
good.
be indoctrinated But yeah.
Yeah, there just aren't. I haven't met many brothers in the church. I'll say that. I gave my preamble and that to say, yeah, I've not met any brothers who are LDS. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I can think of one particular family, but that's about it. So maybe Grant. Maybe Grant.
With them?
What's that?
Were you friendly with them?
Somewhat. I didn't know them that well, but their son.
Okay.
Yeah. Their son is great, and he's of the faith and on a mission. And
how many wives did? How many mothers did he have?
One mother, Mike Steph.
Just
one mother. Yes, this is
okay.
This okay. See, you're not going to show the clip, but you're alluding to. Okay, so for those who missed it, we just got to get into it. This is what we do on the Southern Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast. You asked me on air. Oh, so Grant, is this a what is it? Sister Wives? Big Love. Is this going to be one of those? Is that going to be the offspring of this show? And I said, Mike Steph, possibly, but probably not. I don't know.
You never said possibly.
No, I did. That was
positively not.
That was just for shock value. That was just for shock value. What I will say though is, again, going back to answering your question, very prominent on the West Coast, but particularly when we're thinking of Utah, I think even Colorado, definitely Arizona, huge LDS population. And again, what I will say, I would argue like many religious affiliations, like many different groups of folks, when you actually meet people and know people, it's like, oh, okay, I know folks who belong to the church and they happen to be really cool.
Okay.
Will Grant join? I don't know. I think Latia is the choice, but there's only one way to find out. We got to tune in, Mike.
Oh, you're so lucky that my next comment just flew out my head, and probably for a good reason. So the last thing I will say is, and this was like more of a joke, when you was talking about the acronyms, the LDS, I was going to say, do you know any LDS that are related to Isaac Yankem? DDS.
The artist formerly known as Kane. That's actually at some point a transition into politics. Yes. I refer to him as Glenn Jacobs now, but simpler times. Isaac Yankem, Kane, simpler times. Really enjoyed his work when I was a kid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we got to get to it. Politics as usual. Now, for those who don't know, and it's probably a small circle, and I'm going to expose this right now. This brother that I have on my platform, this brother I have on my screen right now, he has been referred to by this moniker, which popped me, because I'm like, wow, you know what? He is a politician in his own right, and it's so apropos. One of his good friends, dare I say one of his best friends, if I'm not mistaken, one of his close compadres dealing with 4AZ, refers to this young brother as Young Obama. Where did the nickname Young Obama come from?
Big shout out to Tommy Clardy and the entire Clardy fam. Yeah, Tommy's one of my best friends. I love that too. Shout out to you, Flash. So his family actually bestowed that nickname on me, and I've given myself a lot of nicknames in my day, Mike. But when you actually are bestowed a nickname, and when it's positive, I've been called many things in my life, not all positive. When it is a positive nickname, it's like, oh snap, I made it. I was that kid that created the email address for myself, franchise with a Z 93 at cox.net.
Huh. I wonder if it's at what.net?
At cox.net. Yeah, Cox Communications.
Oh, okay.
You're crazy for that. So wow. my point is, when I was on my basketball sort of tip back in the day, I was like, oh, I'm the franchise, like Steve Francis, like Stevie Franchise, but like it's me. So fast forward years and years later, when I'm in college, it's actually a really great story. When I'm in college, I'm getting ready to go to the U of A, the University of Arizona. Again, my family, and we live in Glendale in the West Valley, a suburb, if you will, of Phoenix. Tucson, where the University of Arizona is located, is about 2 hours south. As I was preparing for that adventure to go to college, I learned pretty quickly that Al's Barbershop is the black barbershop in Tucson, because when you're relocating to a new city, you got to figure out, okay, where are the grocery stores? Where, again, this is me circa 2011. Where am I going to get my haircut? Can I find this new community? I'd never been to Tucson before for any significant period of time, and so you know how it goes, just through a network, just through communications, not just Google, but actually hearing from folks. You find out, oh, in Tucson, Al's is the spot to go to, and it just so happens, Tommy's father, also Tommy Clarter Jr., was working at the infamous Al's Barbershop on Grant back in the day for many, many years. And so I met him, and at that time I didn't have a car. So I walked from my dorm at U of A. I walked maybe about 30 to 40 minutes, just a straight shot from Speedway onto Grant Road. I walked into Al's for the first time. And granted, my grandfather was a barber. He's no longer with us, but he was a barber. He was a pastor. He was a barber. McDowell and Sons Barbershop in Patterson, New Jersey. So the barbershop, not only as we know, holds an incredibly special place in the Black community, especially in my family with the McDowells. The barbershop is so much more than just a place where you get your hair cut. Shout out to Smoke and Mirrors, by the way. Whoa. It's only smoke and mirrors. So it's more than just a place to get ready to be your best self. I know I'm preaching to the choir, right? It's the mecca of Black life in many ways. So anyway, knowing all this, I had to find Tommy's. I had to find Al's Barbershop, the owner, Al. And then Tommy was a barber there. So I met him and instantly was just like, man, I didn't know which barber to go to. I just waited. And you know how it goes, Mike. It's kind of a luck of the draw. And luckily, Tommy's chair was available. Yeah, Tommy's chair was available one day. You have to wait usually. You did. Al's is no longer, but you had to wait back in the day because it was very popular. So long story, I'm realizing as I'm speaking. I end up meeting because I haven't thought about Al's in so long. It was a formative place for me. Tommy's chair was open and we met. And then, he became my barber. And so at some point, I don't know how soon it was into our friendship, our relationship, if you will. He's like a second dad to me. He bestowed that nickname upon me. And I think it's for the reasons you alluded to of not only being light skinned, but maybe, displaying some politician-like qualities and what have you. Yeah. So Tommy's dad gave me that nickname. And now Tommy's dad owns his own barbershop, Tommy's Barber and Beauty on Speedway. So big shout out to Tommy, just a father figure to so many, an entrepreneur, a North Star in my life. Yeah, he gave me that nickname, and now the Clardy family refers to me as that, and maybe some other people as well. So it's an honor. It's a nickname that was bestowed on me, and I love me some Clardy fam.
Now that when I heard that when you had your conversation on 4AZ, it just popped me. I was like, Young Obama.
I bet it did.
I'm like, you know what? That fits. That is so perfect.
I'm honored, Mike. That's cool to hear that.
Especially knowing you as I know you over the last 3 years, I'm like, that's right on the button. Yeah. And I'm not even saying that in a derogatory way. It's just like, no, that definitely fits. That's beautiful.
And back at that
timeline, especially the time that you probably was bestowed, that was like, wow, like out of everything.
I was gonna say, and thinking back, if we're using our 2011 to 2015 brain, Barack was in office at that time, so it was really top of mind. I mean, now it kind of feels a little bit dated because it's been a minute since he's been in the limelight in that way. But man, we're talking 2011 to 2015 when I was in college. That was end of the first term and then the re-election against Mitt Romney. So we were up and luckily I walked into Al's barbershop one day, and as I got to know Tommy, he gave me that nickname. But you know how it goes, Mike. People earn nicknames at the shop, and sometimes not for good reasons. So I was lucky that I got a nickname for positive reasons, because you know how it goes is, often once you become a regular, you're not known as Ty or Tyler or Mike. You're known as the nickname you've been given. Unfortunately for me, it was one that was complimentary in nature.
Shoot, at my Dominican barber shopper's choice, I'm known as Miguel.
Get it how you live, Miguel.
No,
Miguel, Steph.
Cause when I told him, cause normally I don't take the barber's number and everything like that. When I get there, he's there. All right, I'm just in line. I don't call it how many people you got. I'm not trying to wait and like I don't do that. Like I get to the barber shop. All right, which go ahead even tell me I got 3 in front of you. All right, no problem. I'm sitting there. I'm not gonna go back and come back.
Yeah,
Look.
but you're obviously loyal. You're loyal to that specific barber because you built up the rapport.
Yeah. So when so I think one time because he lived right upstairs, so I went down. I went there and he wasn't in. So I asked one of the other barbers. I'm like, "Yo, is Giovanni in?" He was like, "Yeah, call him." I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "Darn, I'm gonna call him, but he don't know me. Like he's gonna look at the number, like who's this?" So I called and I was like, "Yeah, you work?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm downstairs." I guess he recognized my voice. Came downstairs. So he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Give me your number." So like, let me store your number so I know it's you.
That's dope.
So I said, "Yeah, it's Mike." So, but there's a lot of Mikes. So he was like, "Mike." I was like, "Matter of fact, Miguel."
I love it.
He was like, "Miguel." Yeah, okay.
I love it.
So when I pick up,
See, that's the shop.
Call,
that's the shop experience. There's nothing
yeah.
like
So when
it.
I call, it pops up Miguel, but he knows, all right, it's Black Mike. Which is crazy.
It's just I mean I have so many stories going there, again walking there 30 to 40 minutes and back, and there were times where I closed up shop with Tommy and he would give me a ride back to the dorm. So yeah, that family, they're Tucson royalty, and I'm just so grateful for them. I love the Clardy fam.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave you that name, because I don't think I could respect young Jeffries. That probably wouldn't go well, and especially young Schumer. Nah, that especially after this last week, I don't think that would go well either. But that
I got lucky, Mike. Right place, right
yes,
time.
you got lucky.
Story of my life. Sometimes you're just in the right place, right time, and that's all there is to it.
Sure, if you was in New York, somebody might bestow upon you the nickname of Young Adams.
Wow. Okay. See, that's the Miguel. I don't know who did this. Is the Miguel, not the Mike Steph I know. That's
Let me stop.
That's not. Yeah. I hope you do. That's not a compliment, Mike.
I know.
I see the title at the bottom here. I know we're in our political discussion. Young Adams is I got to think about that.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
I don't think in 2025 that's a compliment.
How do young people say that's nasty work?
That's sus. That's nasty work. I need a cope. Yeah, for sure. That was probably cringe. I'm out of that age range now, but please forgive me, younger listeners. I think I crossed that threshold when I hit 30. Like I can't just be using the Gen Z terms anymore. Because
listen,
I feel cringy when I say it. But if I pop you, that's what matters.
Oh yeah, I popped myself. That's what I was like. Yeah, that's what I was like. What? How do young people say that's nasty work?
That's nasty work. That's sus.
But no. Your timeline of following politics. I'm going to ask, what's your timeline, and why do you personally become so emotionally affected by the outcomes of various political races, decisions, and so forth? I guess it's kind of a loaded question, but I just, I want to know your your stance on it.
Sure. My family's always been very politically active, and I can remember from a young age, CNN or NBC or ABC, 60 Minutes, CBS every Sunday at 6 p.m. here. It was always evident to me that being informed is not only cool, for lack of a sophisticated term, but it's really our duty as citizens to be informed and to vote, not just every 4 years, but in your local elections, and just to be well studied in that regard, especially now when, granted, there's a lot of mis and disinformation out there, but you can literally find information at your fingertips. And during my childhood, it wasn't always that way. Like I've been able to see the evolution of, oh, snap, now we got supercomputers in our pockets. It wasn't like that back in the day. Yeah. There's no excuse now. But from an early age, it was just, it wasn't even taught to me. I could just look around and see, oh, it's in fashion to be politically active. Again, regardless of where you may lie on the political spectrum or who you vote for, because it's pretty cool to live in a swing state where it's not predominantly red or blue, especially now. That's also been a change over my lifetime in Arizona. It was just clear to me that this is something that's really important, and how you're able to exercise your power as a citizen. It's twofold for me, just immediately. What can I do every day to feel good about decisions I make and to have an impact? It's where we spend our money, which perhaps we'll get into later. It's where we spend our money and who we give our money to. But then also B, how we vote and making sure to vote. So certainly as I've grown, I've really embraced that responsibility. And it's so important to me, because at times, and I'll pass it to you, Mike, I definitely want to hear your thoughts. At times in this life, in this world, we can feel really helpless. And whatever I can do to not feel that way and help others feel empowered, I certainly want to. I remember canvassing, as a matter of fact, with one of my dear friends. Canvassing was brand new to me, but there was a particular presidential election, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, we should go canvassing." Like, oh, we just go to this specific location. They hand us literature and talking points and and then and they give us a map of, here's this neighborhood. We hit up and we pass out material, and if welcomed, have a conversation about current times and candidates who are on the ballot. So I have friends who are certainly more politically active in that regard than me, but I've gotten a taste of it. And I just really like, again, being informed, keeping up with the news, learning about who's running for office, because ultimately politicians serve as a vehicle for the everyday citizen. Ideally, hear me out, Mike, Steph, best case scenario, our elected officials converge onto Washington with what's on our minds, our concerns, our priorities. Ultimately, they are supposed to be caveats for us to, vehicles, if you will, for us to have our voices heard in DC. And again, that's not always sort of how it plays out on both sides of the aisle. But I really like that idea of, hey, if we're going to vote for folks, our voice matters, and we have to be diligent about making sure that people are held accountable. Maybe that's the journalism student in me. But with that power comes great responsibility. Not to be full Spider-Man Miles Morales about it, but the folks we give this power to, that doesn't just come with a nice paycheck or a nice vehicle or a nice home in, Paradise Valley. That's an Arizona reference for your Arizona listeners. But that comes with the responsibility to represent the people. And I just think it's really important to be informed and exercise your power. How do you do that? For those who are eligible, you vote. And it's also where you spend your money and who you give your money to, and hopefully where you spend your money, the folks who are in charge of those organizations and companies, their values, how they live their lives, are reflective of, how you try to live your life.
What you just mentioned has actually started resonating with me over especially the last 2 to 3 weeks. Because we've talked off here, we've talked personally that I kind of unplugged, so to speak, because it was just becoming like every day it was one thing after another, and so forth. And both locally with Adams, and then he had a connection with Trump, trying to get Adams off the hook with his trial, his corruption case in New York, and then dealing with Trump and Musk, who's not even an elected official, pretty much destroying the fabric of our government piece by piece, department after department after department. Like, at first, initially, I said, you know what? And I think I might have said this on air, that the only thing I can do is concentrate on the world that I know. I can't let everything else affect me to an nth degree, because it's going, especially with my particular case, I can't deal with all that stress. It'll rev my anxiety up. But at the same time, similar to you, I grew up, and this is something I've always tried to bestow to my children, of being aware of what's going on in society, being aware of what's going on in politics, because whether or not it directly affects you, it'll eventually affect you. It might not be instantaneous, but there's a trickle down effect. So I used to always go under the aspect of, I would tell them, like, listen, it takes you 20 minutes. You can watch New York One, Spectrum News for nationwide people. You can watch one cycle of New York One. I mean, one cycle of Spectrum One. At least you can get an overall view of what's going on locally, what's going on nationally. Same thing. Well, the radio, not so much, but now it's like you said, you have this information in your hand, this information in your pocket. There's various sites, even though I commend you for actually detaching yourself from X. And every time I even log on, I'm like, Mike, why are you doing this? I feel disgusted by even logging on. I don't really partake, but it's just like, why don't you just delete it? Like, everybody that you can have contact with, you have contact with other ways. You don't really need this to keep the contact with.
And if I could just jump in, Mike, because I'm passionate about this one. So the artist formerly known as Twitter was my favorite app. If we look at, well, at least the apps in my universe, Facebook, Instagram, very meta focused, and Twitter, now X, those were the three that I was, and LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's different. Those were the three that I would spend my most time on. And Twitter was always my favorite because it's this nice mix of, you can get news, you can use it to promote the podcast, you can, there's spaces where people record. And it's like, I can listen to podcasts within the app that aren't available on Spotify or Apple Pod. I don't begrudge you at all because I have a lot of affinity for that platform as it was. But at a certain point, as you pointed out, I don't think it's just a matter of will in your case, and a lot of people I know. I think the tricky part about the time we're living in is a lot of these apps, they've really sort of reworked our brains, and certainly done that for youngsters, where it's kind of creates this chemical imbalance of, no, it's like playing the slot machine. Like, I have to get up, and what's the first thing I do before I take a sip of water, before I use the restroom, before I brush my teeth? I'm checking Instagram, I'm checking X, or I'm checking Twitter. So I want to give you credit just to say, it's not just a matter of, oh, why am I not doing this? I should just leave the app. Really, there's the science and the brain work of, no, we've been conditioned now where we feel like, not saying you're saying this, but I think a lot of us feel as though we need these apps. It's just a part of our daily way to function is, if I leave this app, I'm going to be missing something, or I'm going to miss a connection. But to your point, you got my number. We're connected on other apps, and I'm certainly not here to say Mark Zuckerberg is the epitome of ethics or my idea of what it means to be a man. But those apps, Facebook and Instagram, for better or worse, have become less dispensable for me than an X. For X, that was a pretty easy. I feel the same way you do. I log in, and my algorithm is specifically targeted, especially around election season. It's specifically targeted to content I have no interest in. Whereas IG, Facebook, I have a lot of family members on there and folks I'm connected with through school, whether it's colleagues or former students, or, just folks who those relationships I cherish, who I don't keep in touch with them via phone call or text, but we're just connected on an app. That's where, okay, I kind of loathe the worm that Mark Zuckerberg has turned into. But I also really love my auntie, and I really admire, this young man who graduated 5 years ago and wants to maintain a relationship. So I totally made that about me, which was not the original intention. I want to give you your flowers and say, you're not alone. These apps now feel like, how do I function without this platform? It's hard.
Now, I'll say this, especially over the last 6 months to a year, I have really kind of detached somewhat from apps altogether. Like Instagram, because of the video and photo aspect. I do videos. A lot of times it's artistic or whatever, just like I get my verses off or whatever, and promoting the podcast. And also, most people on Instagram that I'm friends with I'm actually friends with them in real life. X, Twitter, it's basically that was basically for news, because you would get the news there first. And like I said,
Right.
the apprehension of me, because I'm like, wow, I might not even delete my account, just delete it off my phone so I don't have access to it, or I have to really.
That's a good start.
Because the person that's in charge of this is actively affecting my life.
Right.
It's not, this billionaire up in the sky whose interests, who's a billionaire and he's invested in Facebook and Meta or what have you, and he's selling your information. Okay, even though that's kind of gross, but this guy is literally in the Oval Office saying, no, get rid of him, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. And he's not even from here. He's not even from here. He's literally just pulling the puppet string.
in many ways, at least on face value, seemingly replacing JD Vance as the vice president. Optics wise, I've seen more content with Trump and Musk than I have Trump and Vance. I don't know if that's calculated. I don't know if that's just the algorithm, but in many ways, it seems like low key. The dude who runs X and runs Tesla also happens to be the unelected VP.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, I'm just gonna come out with it. What's your thoughts on the current administration and what's trying to be accomplished by it? Because on numerous reasons. One, because I had a kind of little outline in my head. But then at the same time, I'm like, you know what? No, let's just get to the shits.
How do I artfully introduce this? Yeah, Mike, you and I. So to pull the curtain back for your audience, first, number one, I definitely want to give you your flowers, because initially we were planning on doing this a week ago, but I proposed that 4AZ Abbott recording to you, an episode recapping Abbott with you and Sarah Beth. First time we would be a trio, and you were amazing, Mike. And you, in my view, you put my priorities ahead of your own. So I first want to let your audience know that's one of the coolest things that anyone has done for me professionally. So I first want to thank you. No, I'm serious, because you could have easily said, dude, we had this plan to do my season 3 release. What are you talking about? Like, get at me, talk to my assistant in a week or two, and then we'll see what we can do. But you put me before you in that instance, and in many other instances. So I just want to thank you for being the man you are and for stepping up to support me in that way. So that's number one. I don't know how I was going somewhere with that, but now I forgot your question though. Oh yeah, artfully, you and I were talking about, okay, what are we going to address in this episode? And luckily you gave me kind of a rundown ahead of time of what we wanted to discuss. And certainly this question is on there. So yeah, we should get right to it. What do I think of this administration and what their goals are? A lot of different directions to take this. I'll start by saying I did not vote for Donald Trump. I have never done so. I do think it was important as a country that we acknowledge the results of November's presidential election, and Donald Trump won in relatively resounding fashion. As the swing state results came in, it was pretty clear early on. I remember when they showed the footage at Howard, and I was like, oh no, like we can't even turn up at Howard. This is just going to be, I've been there, great historic place. This is just going to be a very, very dreary evening, kind of like deja vu from, 8 years ago. But, I've had this conversation with people in my life, some who vote similarly to me, some who don't. And I do find, how do I want to phrase this? I do find the sentiment of I want the country to do well, not necessarily a candidate, to have some gravitas. I mean, I agree. I want everyone to be safe and happy and prosperous and what have you. That being said, when an administration, in my opinion, is not taking the steps to do that, and in fact working to disenfranchise lots of people, and to really, protect or coddle this idea of who should be in power and who should be at the top of society. And let's get rid of DEI. And, I think DEI has become the new N word. It's really concerning, not surprising, certainly, but incredibly concerning and just sad more than anything. I've been fortunate to grow up in a time where Barack Obama, and granted, I think a lot these days about celebrity worshiping, and I try to avoid that, but I do have a lot of affinity for the Obamas. This is not a surprise for you, Mike, Steph. The rumors, probably unfounded, but thank you, Meghan McCain. The even rumors or speculation of the Obamas getting a divorce just shatter me. And it's good podcast talk, but I know I would be a wreck at least for 24 hours if that happened. So I hope that does not happen. I want to be on record of saying that right now. But I have a lot of affinity for the Barack Obama era of politics because I was a sophomore in high school when he ascended, and not only when he became the nominee, but specifically when he was elected. And for me, it truly transcended whether you're an R or a D or an I or you have no affiliation. To me, being 16 years old and seeing someone who looked like me ascend to the highest office in the land, seemingly like just a meteoric rise, kind of out of nowhere. Randy Orton, if you will, was out of nowhere in my mind, Barack Obama. And then I got the t-shirts and da-da-da. To me, that just signaled from an early age that, wow, the promise of this country that you can be anybody you want to be. I didn't have to be persuaded by that. I just looked at what was happening and thought, oh, wow, that's incredible. That's true. And, I'm going to graduate soon and maybe I can be whoever I want to be. It's not just something my parents are telling me. I can actually do this. I'm seeing it in real time. And when we think of, again, not just political affiliation, but just the decency, I think of that time period is something that I long for. It seems like now, whether it's political violence or just common decency in how we treat people, I don't think we've improved on that. In fact, I think we've declined in that regard. So what do I think of the administration? I think it is terrifying. Some days it feels like a Black Mirror episode. And the avenue that I've chosen with my life of education, I am not flawless by any means, but I have chosen this specific route and really given my professional life to this work to think about some of what's maybe on the agenda for this administration when we're thinking of education, when we're thinking of public school, when we're thinking of the children we serve and their educators. It's incredibly concerning. And I just think there's a lot of worship around not only political figures, but a lot of well-off figures who, in my opinion, could give a damn about folks who are trying to make it in Brooklyn or, poor communities in Phoenix or in Marana. These folks could care less about y'all. They don't know what it's like to try to make ends meet, to not have enough money at the grocery store, to struggle with rent, or even to discriminate against, Black tenants who want to live in your building. Again, that's another podcast episode. But you have documented proof, and you have proof every day if you open your eyes, that these folks don't care about us. And I know this is part of your agenda, Mike, and then I want to pass it to you. I promise. Mm-hmm. I know that the Democratic Party leaves a lot to be desired these days. I am not totally ignorant to that, but even though there is work to be done, I'd love to hear your thoughts on potential candidates for 2028. I think there's a really stellar field. Currently, as the Republican Party stands in the image of Donald Trump, I am concerned about what the next 4 years could bring. Specifically, we're thinking about education, and somehow Linda McMahon is the face of education now. It's like my love for pro wrestling has come back to haunt me all these years later. I'm like, wait, didn't I see you get pile driven by Kane like 20 years ago when I was watching TV on the couch with my dad? And now you are the figurehead of a really important aspect of my professional life. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
this
image is
woman
on
right
the
here.
screen. The image is on
Right
the
here.
screen with WWE brass. Yeah, we can get into that. I am concerned. Again, I'm not surprised, but I do recognize the importance of, man, I'm glad people showed up and went out to vote. And certainly Donald Trump, if you can give him credit for nothing else, he has done two things. He has gotten a lot of people to vote who did not previously, and he has orchestrated in my lifetime the greatest political comeback I have certainly ever seen or read about. He does get credit for those two things, the WWE Hall of Famer that he is. So I honor people's right to vote, and I'm glad people showed up to the ballot box or mailed their ballots in. That being said, though, I completely agree with your disdain for Elon Musk. I am not on X anymore, and I am very concerned with. Yep, there he is on the screen too. Those two guys, and Dana White. And just this circle of. I'll put it to you this way, Mike, because I realize I'm going long on this. There's a part of this conversation that I'm really interested in having, always interested in having, which is I think a lot of young men look up to these figures who are involved in this administration, whether it's the president himself or Elon Musk or Dana White or the Joe Rogans of the world and other folks. I think a lot of youngsters have identified, okay, who are my role models in celebrity life, which is maybe a flawed question in general. But I think a lot of folks would point to one, if not all of those four guys. And to them, they demonstrate this is what it means to be a man. I like them. I want to be like them when I grow up. To me, that's the most heartbreaking of it all. Because when I think about what it means to be a man, this is going back to giving you flowers, my friend. Mm-hmm. What it means to be a man is someone who is accountable, who is selfless, who is caring, who is a protector. Like, to me, those are the qualities I think about when I think of my dad or Tommy or the person I want to be. Not these schmucks who it's the best word I could use off the top of my head. Not these four that I just mentioned. This is not what it means. This is not the apex. This is not the zenith of manhood. So that's a part of this conversation that I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on and that I think about a lot, because although I gave President Trump credit for those two accomplishments, if you will, because I think it's real. He did get people out to vote who were disenfranchised, and he orchestrated the greatest political comeback in the history of the country. I think a lot of what the administration is up to is nefarious and is dedicated to keeping folks in power who are wealthy, who have been wealthy, were born into wealth, and will remain in wealth, and not only don't look like us, Mike, but are so out of touch with what the everyday experience is that they're just clinging to power, and they want to hold on to that and protect others who are willing to sacrifice their soul to be around money and power and influence. I would hope that I could maintain some sense of morality, but I think a lot of folks have shown us when you have access to money and power and influence, you're willing to sacrifice a lot of that moral compass to get there and to stay there.
You know what this reminds me of? Okay, everything reached a crescendo in 2020, right? We had the pandemic, we had the protests in the streets, we had immediately following the election results, beginning of 2021, we had the insurrection. So by you saying that he orchestrated the greatest comeback in political history, that's accurate beyond accurate, because who would have thought 4 years later we would be back in this position? Not only that, it's almost like instantaneously of, all right, I'm picking up exactly where I left off, but this time I'm going to make sure that I don't have anybody around me that's going to persuade me, maybe you should try it this way. No. Like, I remember in 2016, everybody was concerned about Steve Bannon. It seemed like within the first 90 days, Elon Musk put Steve Bannon to shame. Because, yeah, Bannon could say all this, but he didn't actively go to department to department to department and with a team of people and dismantle it. It was okay. He was the quote unquote devil on Trump's shoulder. Yeah, maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. And that's what to me has been more startling than anything is from the word go, from the inauguration after the party that night, he's in the office along with this cocksucker right here signing things into effect. But
yeah,
even more so, going back to what you said about my, I guess best way to term it, my disenchantment with Democratic leadership is, and I'm going to turn this back around to you. Don't you feel that in the 4 years that we have control of the executive branch, we have control of the legislative branch, we didn't really have control of the, of the Supreme Court because, like, he packed that in. But you would think within those 4 years we would have put something in place to make sure that this was never a possibility, like never a possibility. And then for the default position of those who we put in office, like I have a lot of, and darn, I'm looking at the time, but we're gonna cook. I have a lot of disdain for Schumer personally because he is a senator of New York, so he affects me personally. And I remember back in 2020 or maybe 2019, matter of fact, no, back in 2020 when trying to galvanize everybody to get out and vote, not only for the presidential election, but for the Senate and the representatives and so forth. Listen, we need you to come out in mass. We need to get this scourge out of office. Oh yeah, all the essential workers, all the people, we appreciate y'all putting your lives on the line by serving the public. We're going to take care of y'all. We're going to make sure that the hundreds of people who lost their lives on the front line, not able to stay in their comfy house and work from home, that we literally had to be out on the front line, and I'm one of those people. We're going to take care of you. Make sure this bill gets passed. Make sure this transportation bill gets passed. We're going to take care of you. And as soon as they got in office, what happened? What happened? No, you rested on your laurels. You rested on your bag. Yeah, you passed the transportation bill, but was there anything really carved out for the actual workers? Like in my job, those who know, those who don't, figure it out. We got our last contract, we got bestowed $4,000 essential worker bonus. $3,000 in 1 year, $1,000 the following year. That's not what was promised. What was promised by Schumer, look, I knew it was a pipe dream. Oh, y'all gonna get $10,000. I mean, because we can't ever put a price tag on what you did above and beyond your duty, but yeah, we're gonna make sure that y'all are taken care of. $4,000. Now that $3,000, that was taxed at a different rate, at a different rate than my normal paycheck. So we was taxed at 49%. So that's $3,000 after taxes. You was lucky if you got $1,400. But not only that, you got taxed twice because you got taxed in your check, and then at the end of the year, when that $3,000 is calculated amongst your yearly, your yearly gross, put you in a different bracket. More taxes, so you got taxed twice. Last year we got $1,000 after taxes, $450. But that's my personal distaste for him to begin with before this. But okay, you galvanized the troops. We said, put us in office. We're gonna make sure everything is get back to normal or better than normal. We're gonna get you out of this post-pandemic world. And now we're back where we're at with this dude in office doing whatever he wants to do, and your default position is, well, what can we do? We don't have control of the Senate. We don't have control of the House. What can we do? That's not what I want to hear. Where is the quote-unquote resistance? Like, and this is 90 days into the term. We have 3 long years. my main,
Yeah, we do.
My main fear was for him being put back in office. Or do y'all realize y'all gonna just give him 4 years to finish the job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you pointed out, Mike, the work that's been done over the last 4 years is at the local level, getting a lot of these cronies elected who will be willing to bypass, nefarious example A, nefarious example G, those kind of guardrails that were in place, during the first term, in many cases are no longer there anymore because you have these sycophants who are these cult members who are now, in elected positions over, across the country. But what I will say is, so I've thought a lot about this in my relationship to all this, and specifically my relationship to folks in my life who don't vote the way I do, but specifically there's something, and this isn't mysterious, you just said it eloquently. There's a lot about this particular, not just candidate, but this particular political figure that are just so antithetical to how I try to live my life and to what I believe in. I've met so many amazing people I went to school with, people I've worked with, families I've served, students I've attempted to serve who have different political beliefs than me. I've worked in conservative areas. And it turns out a lot of these students and families are amazing and have been some of the most supportive families in my entire career, people I hold dear. So on the same end, it's not just about, okay, you belong to a different political party than me. We can still be people. But it's if my struggle is if you ride for this particular guy, it's not even that I'm just hitting delete on you in my life. I just have questions at this point, as you pointed out, Mike. Now that here we are, these many years later, second term, I just have questions as to why this guy. Why are you willing to overlook? You can go through the entirety of the list. I won't. But for example, how was Jan 6 not a place for you to pause? And I think some people did pause, in fairness, but many did not. Like, if we can just take that one isolated example, for a lot of folks, again, this goes back to misinformation and disinformation and your algorithm and the research you do or lack thereof. I'm of the mindset that a lot of people genuinely believe that election was stolen from him and thus stolen from them. And again, if you believe that, I'm not saying I'm going to delete you imminently, but I really got to think about it, because if you are down for this particular candidate, for this administration, to me, I just struggle with finding how much common ground we can realistically have, right? I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy. I want you to have access to a prosperous life. And I hope you want that for me. But if you're willing to overlook these things, and if you're okay with an agenda that is not respecting my life or my safety or people I care about, God forbid, our LGBTQ friends and family and coworkers, like science and public education, like if you're actively voting against that, and as you point out, Mike, supporting the abolishment of these aspects of my life that are really important to people I care about, to me, it starts to creep on that, oh, this is more than just a vote for a political figure who I happen to disagree with. It seems like the movement represents something that is entirely different than, let's go over previous candidates, the Mitt Romneys of the world, Arizona's own, the late John McCain, George W. Bush, right? Like, this is a very different era we're living in. And I tell you, Mike, part of me wants to respect the gangsta of Donald Trump that you're able to remake an entire political party in your image. That is not easy to do. And yet here we are, and he's done that. But he wouldn't have been able to do that if there weren't millions of people, millions of citizens who stood up and said, this is my guy. I like what he's standing for. And here we are today. I just wonder if the KKK backs your candidate, does that not give you reason for pause?
You know what I think? You know what I think, especially this this past particular election, because you actually answered one of the questions I was going to have, like how do you handle people who have opposite beliefs to you? But no, it's like, all right, it's one thing to have a political party disagreement. It's another thing. This is totally different. But what I believe is the people that voted for him this time, I mean, they came from all walks of life. You had a lot of minorities who voted for him. You had a lot of Hispanics who voted for him. Even though, while he's the one that's talking about, yeah, first day, y'all getting on the bus, y'all getting up out of here. It's almost like the majority of the people who voted based on, the price of eggs. And don't get me wrong, listen. I saw the price of stuff going up and the money that's going in my pocket going down, but that wasn't a tell to a point of, well, I know I'm going to vote for this guy. No, I already know what it's about. We dodged the bullet last time. Why would I give him a chance? But the majority of the people who put him or voted for him felt like, it's not going to affect us. He did that last time. It's not going to go that far. Well, I don't think I think they really miscalculated on how influential Mr. Musk was going to be into this, or how much leeway he was going to be allowed to have influence on the actual administration. Because I have people that I worked with, like I said, from different parts. And I'll say, all right, for instance, I have a Hispanic dude that I work with, and he was like, yeah, Trump gonna make sure that if you don't got your papers right, you gotta get up out of here. Like, sure, you gotta do it the right way. And I'm looking at him like, so listen, I don't even want to know, but in my mind, I'm like, already kind of told me who you voting for. But do you think he will stop at that? Do you think he could just make sure that your papers magically disappear? You think you safe?
Yeah, and we've seen with Elon Musk access to private information and just some really scary, nefarious. It's given Black Mirror, Mike. It's really. I don't think that cool cars and the idea of cool cars and what was formerly a really great app. I don't know if that's enough for me to be willing to look past all of this awful, dangerous, not just rhetoric, but action that's occurring. It's just, what are we doing? We're better than this.
Are you scared for the future? And if so, how?
I wouldn't.
How much?
Yeah, I think I may have said scary earlier. I would say I'm more concerned than I am scared. I think about, Mike, and this goes back to our conversation about the importance of being informed and voting and what have you. When I think about what our ancestors have gone through, to me, it is incumbent upon us to work together to find solutions, right? Like, we come from a people that are resilient and have just been through some things, right? I'm even thinking of elders in my life who are still with us, right? Uncles, grandparents, etc., who, for example, Mike, so my mom's white. That is not accurate. Yikes. My mom is Black and my dad is white. My mom's from Jersey, from Patterson. Shout out Patterson. And my dad is from Italy, but grew up in Washington Heights, New York. He's a white dude, if I didn't clarify that.
Dimelo.
Love both of them. Yeah, great peeps. And my mom's going to clip that one before, and she's going to have questions for me. So I don't know why I said that. That was just long. It's been a long Sunday. I think about in their case, Loving versus Virginia, right? The official Supreme Court law that finally legalized interracial marriage. That happened within their lifetime. My parents were born in the 50s. So I think about not only my parents, but, again, our ancestors going back generations and all that they had to overcome. I'll just be damned if a guy with awful style and a big pocketbook and his cronies are going to change life for millions of people, whether it's my own, whether it's people who look like me or look like us or people I care about or families I serve. I'll be damned if this particular person and this admin is going to do that. So I would say concerned more than scared. But certainly when I think about the prospects of my life, and again, when I think about, different communities that I care about and want to be uh, the best ally I can for, which I think working in education has really opened my eyes to. That's a really important part of being here, of living, is advocating for those who may not have a voice. It's really concerning to me. So scary, yeah, certainly, but the way I feel is more concern than anything. But whatever word we want to use that will encourage action, that's the word that I feel best about. But I feel concerned more than anything, and I'm trying, to your point, to not have the blinders on or to not just keep my head in the sand or put the earplugs in. I think it's a delicate balance of you need to protect you and yours first in terms of your wellness as you described, and then also once you're rejuvenated, it's go time. It's time to make sure you vote. It's time to make sure whatever other actions feel right to you, because any of us can go online and type a tweet or add a comment or, upload a black box as our profile picture or our Instagram post. You remember those days of 2020? But it's another thing to actually do the work or learn how to do the work, which is certainly what I'm trying to do, and and that's how I feel about it. I just think we've gone through so much, and I just think we're a resilient people, and like I said, I'll just be damned if this particular person or this particular administration, changes life for the worst for millions of people. I just want to be able to find that place of common ground. I don't think that can just be in yesteryear. I feel like there has to be a way where we're just not as perpetually divided. And again, I know it's not like the deepest thought I'm giving on this episode, but I just think there has to be a way, because I've just been privileged to work in environments where you are required to serve kids and families of various skin tones, of various political backgrounds, of various socioeconomic statuses. And I've seen how it can work when you can come together. I just wonder politically, how do we do this not only in 2025 but in 2028 and beyond? Because I think what we're doing now, I just don't think it's sustainable, Mike. So I do get scared about that prospect, but I have to believe that the next generation, they're going to take that baton from us and do things better. I have to believe that, in part because I've seen it firsthand with kids of various backgrounds. I just take real issue with this administration. And again, I worry about the idea of what it means to be a man. I think the big three or the big four who I mentioned earlier, I think they are the North Star for a lot of youngsters now, which, that part concerns me. And I think there's a way to fight against that.
I have one other question that's I'm gonna I'm gonna veer off what we what the rundown, so to speak, because it came to my mind. I'm like, this would probably be a good way to wrap up our political talk. And feel free, if you don't want to touch this, I by all means I understand. Um, Spiritually, a lot of things that have happened over the last 5 years, and especially I want to say within the last 3 to 4 months, come to mind of probability that we're living in the last days, right? I mean, you have the talk or the saying that you have this charismatic figure who will sway the opinions of the masses and bring forth a era of anarchy, so to speak. Now, me and my late brother Kubiak, we would talk about similar things, about the seven seals and so forth, and the horn and so forth, and like I'm not gonna even portray that I'm well versed because I'm still learning. I've paid more attention to it over the last couple years due to my trials and tribulations, for lack of a better term. But even beforehand, like I was aware. And sometimes I'm like, listen, there's too many things, there's too many boxes that are being checked that kind of starts leading up like, you know what? I think we got more time behind us than we have in front of us, at least for this current iteration of society. I say all that to say that's what leads me to concern on one hand, but on the other hand, and this is not even a cop out of why sometimes I choose to be ignorant of what's going on in society, because I was like, just from what I said earlier, but also it's like, if I truly say I have faith in the man above and the higher power, and in Lord Jesus Christ and in God, that means, all right, all of this is meant to happen. It's not meant for me to be nervous Nelly. It's like,
right,
all right, well, put your money where your mouth is. Like, all right, do you have faith? You do not have faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all that preamble. I say all that to say, or to ask you, does that come across? Have that come across your mind with all the machinations that's been going on since this dude has got back into office? Because the subject matter that I'm talking about, I can't really say what I want to say because that would just be blasphemous. So yeah, so you get
yeah. I remember. Thanks for asking, Mike. I remember faithfully going to not only church but going to Bible study when I was younger. There are a series, well, really 2 to 3 in particular, downtown Phoenix, very famous Black churches. I remember going to First Institutional Baptist Church when I was young, and I mentioned to you earlier, my grandfather was a pastor in New Jersey. My uncle is now. My uncle took the reins after my grandfather passed. So, in my family, religion, faith has definitely played a vital role near and far. Admittedly, I don't attend service as often as I used to, but I really dig the idea of, I think whatever is needed for us in this particular time period and in this moment, whether it's faith, whether it's who or what we believe in or don't believe in, whether it's that Saturday yoga session that you go to, every weekend at 11 a.m., whatever is needed to get your mind, body, and soul right, to have that healthy balance that you described of, I'm concerned, I'm scared, I'm doing my best to advocate and do what I can in my own way to advance, causes that are important to me, mixed with, if I'm going to bed every night and I'm worried about what tomorrow is going to bring or what the implications are for this newly elected admin, I don't know that that's very sustainable. And I realize as we're talking that obviously, I'm thinking about all of the women in my life, and God forbid, I don't know what it would feel like to be a woman right now in this moment, to be a Black or a brown woman. I think inherently I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not scared. I'm just concerned. But I think, dare I say the P word, a lot of privilege comes with me being on my high horse of saying that. So I just wanted to mention that there. Yeah. So faith certainly plays a huge role. It has played a huge role in my story. And I sort of, even to this day, wrestle with, no pun intended, wrestle with, well, what is my faith? And do I see myself maybe being more active in the church moving forward? You and I earlier spoke about barbershops and their importance in Black life. Certainly the church has a really prominent position in Black life, especially in America. So during my early years, it was certainly a part of it. But then now, yeah, whether it's you sharing what you did, or I think about my mom, I think about family back east who are active in the church. And, my mom attends Bible study faithfully every Wednesday on Zoom that her brother leads. I know how much that's given to them and how that's really been a source of comfort during challenging times, and particularly during these volatile times we're living in politically here and abroad. I definitely recognize and honor that, one's faith is playing a huge role in just providing that source of comfort. And it's something that I'm still figuring out in my own life. We spoke about LDS faith earlier. I don't plan on moving to Salt Lake City anytime imminently. So please don't be concerned about me, Mike. I'm staying in AZ. But I just have a lot of people in my life who are of various faiths. And I know that, during challenging times, especially now, they really rely on that. And I give them a ton of kudos. I think that's really, really incredible. Even as I continue to navigate, what my faith is, if I have a prescribed faith. But yeah, it's played a huge role in my life and in my family's lives for sure.
No, like I said, I just felt like I was looking and I'm like, you know what? That's always come to my mind, especially last, since beginning of the year, this new administration, what have you. That balance of, like I said, either paying attention or being overly vigilant of what's going on, or like ignoring it, or just finding that balance of, okay, I'm going to imbibe this information, but at the same time, I have to have a baseline of, all right, this information, this is what's going on, but I have to believe what I believe, or I have to have faith in my beliefs. Like, all right, if whatever's going to happen is going to happen. All this, everything is preordained. We're just movements in it. Like, do we really have choice? Do we think we have choice?
I've learned that a lot of life is out of our control. I don't know what the exact pie chart is. If it's like, this percent is my actions, the rest is what happens. But there's so much of life, Mike, that is out of our hands. So I believe in God. I know you do. Sometimes we need that to be like, you know what? Like, things are hot out here. It's crazy out here. But I believe in God. I believe in an afterlife, which I do for both. I believe that, as long as I live my life with integrity and redemption for mistakes I've made, as long as I'm doing what I think is the right thing and helping people, things are going to be okay. People I care about are going to be okay, even if there's a lot of signs pointing to, I don't know if you can be so sure, bro.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's an interesting time in the country. This is funny because this kind of took on a life of its own. Kind of looking like, ooh,
it's real life. But the 2028 field, don't sleep on the field in 2028. Hopefully, the Democratic Party has learned from this total flub that was these last 4 years, and particularly the last 2 years of preparing for life after JB, after Joe Biden. They clearly were not prepared. The 2028 field is strong. Gavin Newsom has a podcast. Wes Moore exists. Gretchen Whitmer has huge appeal. Pete Buttigieg shares a name with my dad and is a very smart man. I think the field is very promising. I'll just say that. There's reason. Again, I know we shouldn't put all the stock into a president. I think that's where we go wrong a lot of times. Instead of voting locally, we just vote every 4 years. But to me, there's reason to be really encouraged with what we see. But to your point, Mike, thinking about the ongoing conversations of the conflict in Ukraine and in Russia if we're thinking in Gaza, the U.S. has a huge role in foreign affairs. So I also think about, our brothers and sisters who are on land, on soil outside of the country, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing there. And these are just complicated topics, man. But I really believe that 28 field is promising, and clearly the old playbook needs to be recycled, and there needs to be a new one established. I want to hope that work is being done.
Well, hopefully, this is the last thing I'll say on it. It's two things. But hopefully, number one, that comment that seemed like nobody's really paying attention to it, leading up to the election, is like, don't trust me. This would be the last time you have to worry about voting. That was y'all didn't. I mean, I don't understand how people are not talking about that like right now. Everything is put in place. Y'all don't have to worry about voting. This is the last election you have to worry about. Don't worry about it. Number one. And number two, unfortunately, matter of fact, I'm gonna put that to the side because I'm not even gonna touch the third rail on that one. This class of 28 that you talk of, they might be running for election of not 50 states, but 52 states. I mean, if the current administration has its way, you talk about, Canada makes great for a 51st state. I'm like, this flipping idiot. Like, sure, they actually a part of us. Somebody just threw a random line and just cut them off. But yeah, we need nothing from Canada. I'm like, if they go through with this 25% tariff on electricity, I'm one of the states that are affected by that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Minneapolis, Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. My electric bill is already $194, $200 a month because we just balling like that, right? Add 25% to that. Think I got money like that?
Shout out,
Shoot, like I said, the Salty Daughter Mike Steph is a passion project. I don't really see not a damn penny of this. I can't afford no 25% tariff. But yeah, it's just crazy. To wrap up this part one of this season premiere, you're also a part of Gimmick Infringement with our brother Brad Winchester. Drops late Sunday night, early Monday morning on the YouTube channel Up to 19 Media Group, and all streaming platforms of podcasts are available. But being the fact I went one half itself, let the people know.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. I'm honored, brother. Thank you for the opportunity there. Yeah, Gimmick Infringement every single Monday. We discuss wrestling, culture, and more. We're at GI Pod 19 across the social spaces. Easy for me to say. Big ups to my co-host, my tag partner, Brad Winchester. We also write original articles discussing the aforementioned wrestling, culture, entertainment, education, and more. You can find our pieces at gimmickinfringementpod.com. Once again, every Monday on YouTube, on your podcast platform of choice, Gimmick Infringement at GI Pod 19. Brad and I get after it. It's a great time. Two teachers turned friends turned podcasters, and he's my dude.
Yes, please give them a shout. Check out the YouTube, listen to the podcast, do both, and please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And if you leave a comment, please let them know that I sent you. So,
period. Please do.
Now, another one of our brothers is Desmond Powell, host of Hit to the Games, drops each and every other Friday on the 19 Media Group YouTube channel and all streaming platforms wherever podcasts are available. And I'm going to give a short clip because we're running. Matter of fact, I'm going to give a short clip because he deserves it. As long as I can find this clip, where's it at? Here we go. I think right about now.
Hip to the Games, the podcast for you, the basketball junkie and the hip-hop head. I'm your host, Desmond, and I too have had hoop dreams and enjoy the beautiful genre of hip-hop and its history. Together, we will enjoy some of the greatest albums, songs, artists, players, moments, teams, and so much more, while even mixing the two on occasion all in my hope that you remember why you love both or either of these to begin with. You'll soon understand that Hip to the Games is more than just a podcast. It's a lifestyle. And if you were looking for a platform that combines both basketball and hip-hop, you've come to the right place.
Please check out Desmond Powell, host of Hip to the Games, each and every other Friday on the 19 Media Group YouTube channel and all streaming platforms where podcasts are available. Check out his latest episode where he entitled March Madness concerning the Golden State Warriors, the Indiana Pacers, your Phoenix Suns, amongst others. Yes, please check him out, especially as we inch closer to the NBA postseason. He will be the place to be for all things NBA. So please check out my bro from the Chi-Town, Desmond Powell. And last but not least, please check out my other entity, Hidden Gems Football, with me and the Bojo King. We drop each and every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday throughout the NFL season. And I heard through the grapevine there might be something. There might be something in the works coming out. You know, free agency, it just started. Tell you the truth, it's kind of lackluster class. But being the fact it's lackluster class, that means all the movement has stopped. That means there's a little opportunity to talk about said movement. So please just check out the 19 Media Group YouTube channel. Subscribe. So if by chance we drop something, y'all will be the first ones to hear it. So with that being said, I told you this face you're gonna see pretty much like in rapid succession. But we're gonna wrap up this part of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. You have any last words, my brother?
Thank you so much, Mike. Again, an honor to join you on the season 3 premiere. Congratulations to you. Mike Steph is as good as advertised. A great brother, a great host. Thank you for the platform. Thank you all for tuning in. And whether it's 4AZ, whether it's Gimmick Infringement, whether it's both, I hope you'll continue to follow my journey. And please make sure you support the OSC, the original, the only Mike Steph, because he's great at what he does. He's the best at what he does, as a matter of fact. Let me check myself. And here season 3 is going to be everything we're hoping for and then some. So thank you, Mike. Thank you all for tuning in. And support this brother right here.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, this guy right here. Yeah, this guy. So yeah, with all that being said, I'm gonna get you out. I'm gonna get out of here. So until next episode, which will probably be a couple of days after this episode drops. Trust me, you don't have to wait a week. It'll be a couple of days. So until later. Goodbye.